Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 players who will win you your league in 2023 fantasy football. But before we can get into these league winners, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into 5 players who will win you your league in 2023 fantasy football. We begin with my first league winner, Bijan Robinson, running back of the Atlanta Falcons, current underdog ADP running back 3 at pick 9.4. Now, it is officially the time of the season where teams are in training camp, which also means the official start of training camp blurb season, where these crazy blurbs come out about how players are in the greatest shape of their lives. But what also comes out is videos. There are tons of videos that have already surfaced from the Atlanta Falcons camp where Bijan Robinson was putting on a clinic in the receiving game. He's going out wide, he's juking defenders out of their socks, and he's making them look silly, and Bijan has great hands. I know Bijan in college wasn't this Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara type of running back, right? 19 receptions last year for 314 receiving yards. But I think when you actually look at things, if he is given the correct amount of volume in the receiving game in Atlanta, Bijan Robinson should be extremely successful in doing so. And while I watched those videos of Bijan Robinson and it got the blood flowing downstairs because, oh, this guy is dominating the Atlanta Falcons defense, which he should, obviously, the reason why they drafted him so high, and he's going up against the Falcons defense that isn't very good. But what I noticed was that there was a lot of plays where Drake London is wide open. Drake London puts a move on the defender. The defender is now 6 states over. He has no idea where he is. He got fucking hit by a Justin Gaethje leg kick to the dome. And Desmond Ridder fucking sails the ball over his head, or Desmond Ridder throws it 7 yards in front of him, right? So I think Desmond Ridder is going to get a little bit better this year, but the quarterback play in Atlanta is going to be some dog shit, let's be honest. And this was a team last year that ran the ball at an incredibly high clip. They would be getting smacked down late in the game, down a zillion, and they're running the ball with Tyler Algier. And they just paid the pretty penny. They paid a very high price for Bijan Robinson. He is going to be the workhorse running back, and they are going to run the ball a ton. And I think Desmond Ridder might turn into a check down king, Justin Herbert style, and just dump the ball off a million times to Bijan Robinson so that he doesn't have to throw the ball deep down the field to Drake London and make himself look silly when he just is nowhere near Drake London when he throws the ball. So Bijan Robinson is in the perfect situation. He is in an Arthur Smith offense that wants to run the ball with a quarterback that's terrible, so they're going to have to run the ball. The only downside to Bijan is I don't think he's going to score a crazy amount of touchdowns because I don't think the Falcons are going to be that great. But then again, Tyler Algier was doing decent last year in terms of the touchdown category, right? The running backs were playing pretty well. There was a game where Caleb Huntley looked like prime fucking Adrian Peterson. So I really do think that Bijan Robinson is in a great situation here, and he has all the upside to be the RB1 in fantasy football. The best running back in fantasy football, and it shouldn't shock anyone. At Texas, he was amazing. Played 3 years there. Back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. 12 games played last year, 258 rushing attempts, 1,580 rushing yards, 20 total touchdowns. Again, he didn't catch many passes at college, 19 receptions for 314 receiving yards, but that's because at Texas, he wasn't given that much of an opportunity. If given the opportunity in the Falcons offense, he is going to smash in the receiving game. He, like I said, in those clips, juking guys out of their socks. I know everyone and their mom loves Bijan Robinson, but there are some people that are very nervous to draft Bijan. They are shitting themselves at the thought of drafting a rookie running back in the first round of a draft, especially when he might go at pick 6 or 7 in your draft. And if people really like Bijan, as much as I've seen other people like Bijan, he might even be a top 5 pick in your draft. So I get why some people might be nervous. But at the end of the day, this guy dominated in college. He runs incredibly hard. He can barrel through a defender like Derrick Henry, and he also has some solid wiggle. He's not the fastest guy on earth, but he's got that breakaway speed while excelling both rushing inside the tackles as well as outside. This guy was built in a lab to be a perfect NFL running back. Again, the Atlanta Falcons offense might suck ass, but they're going to run the ball so much that it's not going to matter, and Bijan is going to have an amazing season. Moving now to league winner number 2, we got Wiki DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears, wide receiver of the Bears, underdog ADP, wide receiver 26 at pick 47.9. DJ Moore was sent over in that package for the Carolina Panthers to acquire the first overall pick, where they selected Bryce Young. There are multiple reports out of training camp that the chemistry between Justin Fields and DJ Moore is outstanding. That these guys are just two peas in a pod, right? Fields even stated, "My life has been better since Moore has come to Chicago." DJ Moore's wide receiver core last year, while I love my guy, Darnell, here comes the Mooney, right? Darnell Mooney isn't a fucking wide receiver 1 in the NFL. That was proven by last season. Chase Claypool, right? Things were not the best, so Fields didn't look like this prolific passer out there. In college, he looked really good throwing the ball. But now he gets a legitimate wide receiver 1 in DJ Moore, and they are already have built some great chemistry together. DJ Moore has struggled through his NFL career, not because he's bad, but because he has been pummeled. He has been bent over a table by the quarterbacks that the Carolina Panthers were rolling out. He's had guys like Baker, like Cam Newton, when Cam Newton, wasn't Super Cam no more, right? He's had Sam fucking Darnold. He's had these garbage quarterbacks throwing him the ball, and yet he still finishes decently at wide receiver. He has just never been able to kind of surpass and reach his ability, his ceiling, because the quarterback play was terrible. Wide receiver 22 last year in half PPR and 34.5 PPR points per game. He played in all 17 games for the Panthers, 118 targets, 6.9 per game. Very nice, I like. Number 21 at wide receiver, 63 receptions, 3.7 per game. Number 37 at wide receiver, 888 receiving yards, 52.2 per game. Number 26, and 7 total touchdowns, 14th. Again, if you look at the efficiency stats, you can tell that this guy's amazing, but the quarterback play is making this guy not reach his peak. Like I was just talking about, 6.3 target accuracy last season, 97th at wide receiver. I know some people don't believe in Justin Fields. They don't think he has the skills to be this great passer in the NFL. As long as Justin Fields isn't absolutely terrible, DJ Moore is going to get a better target accuracy than 6.3. And I think the Bears are going to be throwing the ball a lot more than people think. Some people think that there's no way DJ Moore could get 130, 140 targets. I think it's very possible, because people are undervaluing these skills that Justin Fields has in throwing the ball. Dominator rating. This guy, 35.6% dominator rating. A receiver's percentage of total team receiving yards and team receiving touchdowns, 5th at wide receiver. Again, this guy has done it for years in Carolina, but he has been sent to Suplex City by the quarterbacks. I think Justin Fields is going to get DJ Moore out of the funk, and I think DJ Moore has the upside to finish as a top 12 wide receiver, thus being a league winner in fantasy football this season. Next player we are going to jump to is Darren Waller, my number 3 league winner, tight end of the New York Football Giants. Underdog ADP tight end 7 at pick 78.7. Now again, I try not to ejaculate in my pants like the Lonely Island song, jizzed in my pants, when I read these reports out of training camp, right? I'm trying not to overreact. I was already all in on Darren Waller, and these things are just continuing. The news is continuing to cement why I think he's going to be so great. The early reports from camp are outstanding. The Athletic's Dan Duggan writes, assuming health, it would be shocking if Waller doesn't lead the team in targets this season. There are also reports that Waller is bending the defense over in the red zone. He has been, quote-unquote, unstoppable in the red zone. He's activated his fucking game breaker. He's on fire, NBA Jam style, in the red zone. Their wide receiver core is weak. It's weak. I know Jalen Hyatt has started to get some praise after being kind of buried in the early process for being a rookie. They have Wandale, they have my boy Isaiah Hodgins, they have some other pieces as well. So again, they don't have the worst wide receiver core ever. That's probably the best, like I've talked about with Daniel Jones, who I like a lot. I think this is the best wide receiver core Daniel Jones has ever had, but that's not really saying much because wide receiver core has been terrible for Danny Dimes. So Darren Waller could really be the number one target, lead the team in targets on the season. Now I know, if you've drafted Darren Waller last year, you were disappointed, right? He only played in 9 games. He has that injury risk. But the injury risk, to me, is baked into his ADP. He's not going in round 5. He's not going in round 4 because people know that he gets hurt sometimes. He's been hurt in Las Vegas. But what happens now if he doesn't get hurt in New York? Right? I'd end 10 in half PPR points per game. I think he could be a top 3 tight end. Again, he could score 10 touchdowns in New York with the Giants if Daniel Jones is just fucking feeding him the ball in the red zone. And again, I know the Giants, another team, not the greatest defense on earth, but their defense is decent enough to where Darren Waller dominating them is very telling. Darren Waller was dominating defenses in Las Vegas as well. 43 targets, 31st, 28 receptions, 35th, 388 receiving yards, 27th, and 3 total touchdowns, 20th. In terms of efficiency, he was 5th in yards per target and 3rd in yards per route run last season. Again, I have always been someone that has been a Darren Waller guy. When he had that season where no one really knew who Darren Waller was, I was all over Darren Waller. Pause. Right? I've always liked Darren Waller. I get the inherent injury risk. But to me, that is the only hole, the only wart on the profile that you can go to. Because the Giants are significantly better under Brian Daboll than they've been in the past. Daniel Jones looks significantly better because of Brian Daboll. Their wide receiver core isn't great, so Waller is in the perfect position to succeed. Again, I think Waller is someone that people are overthinking. They'll talk themselves into Dallas Goedert, who sure is a super safe option, like wrapping the condom over your team. But as you get deeper and deeper into the draft, you want to be more risky. You want to take the higher risks because it doesn't hurt you as much if your pick at pick 78 sucks compared to if your pick at pick 24 sucks. It doesn't hurt as much. So the upside is immense with Waller, and the only downside, to me, is the injury risk. Let me know what you guys think about these players down below in the comments. While you're down there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. At number 4, we have Brandin Cooks, wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys. Underdog ADP, wide receiver 43 at pick 85.5. So Dallas Cowboys bring in Brandin Cooks in the offseason off of the Houston Texans. A not-so-hot year for Brandin Cooks last season compared to his great career. This guy gets passed around like a blunt. But at the end of the day, he might have been on a million teams, but he's been productive his whole career. Prior to 2022, this man has had six 1,000-yard seasons out of 8. This is a guy that puts up numbers. This is a guy that commands targets in great offenses like the Saints back in the day, like the New England Patriots, and not the great offense like the Houston Texans, but he was commanding targets. Wide receiver 49.5 PPR last year, 41.5 PPR points per game. His stats, again, weren't great. 13 games played, 93 targets, 7.2 per game, number 39, 57 receptions, 4.4 per game, number 44, 699 receiving yards, 53.8 per game, number 44, 3 total touchdowns, 50th. He was 8th in contested catch rate with 60% contested catch rate, 13th in target separation versus man with 2.1, and 27th in route win rate overall, 43.8% route win rate. So Brandin Cooks, despite the fact that he's getting a little bit older, sure, I get it. Brandin Cooks isn't 22 years old anymore. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that this is an offense that is going to be good. And I think they're going to be even better now that Kellen Moore's bozo ass is gone to LA. Now, again, I don't mean that Kellen Moore really sucks, but I think that this offense needed to get him out of there. I think Kellen Moore is going to help out the Chargers, and I think the new offensive coordinator in Dallas is going to help out the Dallas Cowboys. I know, Michael Gallup is still there. Every year, we try to talk ourselves into Michael Gallup. I know a couple years ago, he had some flash games, right? He had some solid games, but he's never been consistent with it. Brandin Cooks is the definition of consistency. You Google consistency, you whip out the fucking Webster's dictionary from your attic. Picture of Brandin Cooks shows up when you look up consistency. Brandin Cooks is in a good offense. I know, CeeDee Lamb's great, but he's the number 2 receiver on this offense. They lose Dalton Schultz, which is another reason to believe that Brandin Cooks could get a crazy amount of targets. I love Brandin Cooks this season. He's an incredibly safe option, and I would be shocked if he doesn't outperform his ADP wildly. Again, wide receiver 43 off the board. He should finish inside of the top 32, in my opinion, and top 24 is in the realm of possibilities, and if that happens, where you're getting him, that's a league winner. A league winner doesn't just have to be someone that finishes in the top 12 at their position, right? I think Bijan could be the number 1 running back. I think DJ Moore, not getting drafted anywhere near the top 12, could be top 12. Darren Waller could be a top 3 tight end. But Brandin Cooks isn't going as early as those other guys, so he doesn't need to be wide receiver fucking 9 to be a league winner. Doesn't have to be. He just has to finish decently ahead of where you're drafting right now before we get on into the final league winner that you need to win your leagues in 2023 fantasy football. I'm going to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. We've talked about them a bunch with the ADPs. They are the best place to play fantasy football this summer, and they have the biggest fantasy football contest ever. Now, Underdog Fantasy is a best ball website. If you don't know what best ball is, it's the best part about fantasy football. It's the draft. And that's it. You draft your team, the 18 rounds, and it's over. You don't have to edit your lineup. There's no trades, and there is no waiver wire. At the end of every week, Underdog automatically throws the highest scores into your lineup for you. You get to do the most fun thing, the draft, and you can come up back at the end of the season and potentially have won a decent amount of money. Again, they have the biggest contest ever. Tournament, Best Ball Mania 4. $25 to enter, 150 max entries, $3 million to first place, $15 million in total prizes. If you don't want to enter a big tournament like that, you're new, you don't want to drop $25 to enter, that's okay. They're going to have smaller contests. There's $3 ones, $5 ones, $7 ones that will be continuously dropped over the summer. And they also have quote-unquote cash games if you play in DFS. So it's just like a normal league. You versus 11 people with as low of a buy-in as $3. The first 2 places make money. So if this sounds fun to you, you want to do some drafts, I think it's better than mock drafting, doing a draft on there. You can use promo code Notorious for a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. You deposit $100, they give you an additional $125, an additional $25, $50, an additional $50. Make sure you guys check that out. Link in the video description or promo code Notorious. So, final guy here. This is a guy that I have been banging the drum for all off season. Antonio Gibson. Now, I know what some people might be thinking. Nick, last year, you hated Antonio Gibson. Nick, you don't think Antonio Gibson is very good. Well, the reason why I was worried about Antonio Gibson going into last season was them drafting Brian Robinson. Then Brian Robinson got shot. So then Antonio Gibson became a more valuable player. But Nick, Brian Robinson's still there. I'll get back to it. I thought that he wasn't playing well. There were so many reports that this guy's going to get sent to fucking Azkaban. This guy's going to be the kick returner, the punt returner. This guy sucks ass, basically, was all the reports. But it seems to be wheels up for Gibson. I expect, and Gibson expects, he said this himself, that he's going to play a third, a weird way to hold up a 3, a third down role, the third down back role in the offense, like J.D. McKissic. They call it the J.D. McKissic role. The enemy in as the offensive coordinator, kicking a stooge out from the Commanders, should help out Gibson and this offense's value as a whole. Again, I don't think Sam Howell's the second coming of Patrick Mahomes, but he doesn't have to be for Antonio Gibson to be good. Running back 30 off the board, or running back 32 off the board at pick 98.4. He was the running back 30.5 PPR last season and 33.5 PPR points per game, tied with the aforementioned Tyler Algier. 15 games played with 6 starts in 2022. He had 149 carries, 9.9 per game, number 34. 546 rushing yards, 36.4 per game, number 36. 58 receptions, 3.9 per game, number 12. 46 receptions, 3.1 per game, number 13. 353, not 500. 353 receiving yards, 23.5 per game, number 13. And 5 total tugs. 31st at running back. Deshaun Watson would be disappointed that he only got 5 tugs last season. Watson's definitely up in the 200s. In terms of tugs. Some interesting efficiency stats. He was 11th in target share, 12th in catch rate, and 12th in yards per reception at running back. Gibson is a great receiving back. and could be given opportunities to carry the rock. Not going to carry the rock 20 fucking times a game. Not going to. But if something happens to Brian Robinson, he probably could. So there's the extra, knock on wood, we know we're for injuries, but there's the additional value of if something happens to Gibson, or if something happens to Robinson, Gibson's value skyrockets, and even if nothing happens to him, Antonio Gibson's going to be seeing a shit ton of receptions. You know who Eric Bieniemy is, right? You know who Jerick McKinnon is, right? Now again, I'm not saying Antonio Gibson is Jerick McKinnon. He's going to hang his nuts on the defense and drop like 30 points in a couple games like McKinnon was close to doing last year, right? But I'm just saying that Gibson at running back 32 is clearly a huge value, and his upside is high because he's in a sneaky, pretty decent offense, in a great role for fantasy football, catching passes as a running back. And again, where he's going, when he's running back 32, he doesn't have to be running back like I was talking about with Brandin Cooks. Gibson doesn't need to be running back 7 or 9 or 10, 11 or 12 to be a league winner when you draft him at running back 32. He could be a guy that is in your lineup every single week as your running back 2 or your flex. You can be very happy with that. So Antonio Gibson, league winner. Bijan, DJ Moore, Darren Waller, Brandin Cooks, Antonio Gibson, my 5 league winners you need to draft right now on Underdog Fantasy or a month from now in your redraft league. So make sure you guys check that out. Link in the video description for Underdog Fantasy. Make sure to hit a like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't joined, and let me know down below in the comments section who's a player that I didn't talk about that you like as a league winner. Now, I was going to mention Tony Pollard, but I've talked about Tony Pollard so much, I didn't mention him, but he is a honorable mention because I love Tony Pollard. Jonathan Taylor, that news was like a fucking nuke in my brain. Is he going to get traded? Is he not going to get traded? I don't know. But that's something that we will continue to follow. Days go on. I love you guys all so much. I hope you all have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.